It's been a while since I've been able to do this. And by able, I mean having actually found the time and not be inundated with other things that I should probably talk about instead. Going over a season after the fact. Now, in my last video, I talked about kind of how, like, I wish I could do this more. And honestly, I'm not even doing it the way that I really want to. But that's just because of how this season went. Alright, so let's back up and make sure that we're all on the same page. Normally, every 3 months, I make a big long video talking about every single anime that I could possibly get my hands on at the start, or roughly start, of a season. I look at all of them, I watch roughly as many episodes as I can handle. I try to watch at least 3 episodes, but you know, sometimes that just doesn't work out. And then I judge all of these anime very quickly, somewhat loosely, and decide for myself whether or not I'm going to watch any of them and how many of them I am going to watch. And what I wanted to do, and what I alluded to last video that I would like to do, is go back after a season is finished and kind of be like, alright, well, here are the reasons why some of these shows didn't end up getting continued, why I didn't actually follow all of them to the end. The problem is, though, is that this season wasn't the best, but I had high hopes at the start of it, because, like, we looked over 34 shows for the summer season, 34 shows, and out of those ones, 13 we tossed right out of the gate. I didn't really have much of an interest to them. They weren't for me, might have been for you, but, you know, that's you. 10 of them I put on hold, thinking, okay, well, I still want to try and give these another episode or so. Maybe I was only able to watch 1 episode and I'm like, no, I think this really needs 3. Variety of reasons. 10 were put on hold, but then 11 shows I thought, and I said to myself, and I said to you guys, this is good, or at least worth paying attention to based on the information that we have. Now, I know perfectly well, and I have statistics based on my own watching habits over for previous seasons, just because I keep a show at the start of the season doesn't mean that I'm still going to have kept it all the way through to the end. Things can change. The shows can become less interesting. There could be a plot twist in episode 4 that changes the whole thing and suddenly I don't like it anymore. There are plenty of times that could happen. But this season is a little unique because of just how many shows I'm still watching by the end of it. Usually I feel like about half of the shows that I start watching at the beginning of the season and say, I'm going to keep these, about half of them I actually end up keeping all the way through. The others I toss either due to lack of interest, lack of development, you know, a variety of reasons that just make it so that I didn't feel like watching anymore. So out of the 10 shows that got held, and hopefully got better, and the 11 shows that I said I was going to keep, try and guess how many I actually finished by the end of the season. You got a number in your head? I'll give you another second. Okay. The answer is 2. And the thing that frustrates me the most is that they're not even shows that I can really recommend to other people. I kept them because they were perfect for me, and just me. There are 1 or 2 shows that I didn't complete, not because I don't necessarily want to, but more so because I didn't feel in the mood for that particular show. So shoutouts to Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian because I needed to be in a particular kind of mood to watch that show all the way through, and I just haven't found myself in the mood yet. I haven't officially dropped that one, but I don't want to say here, oh no, I completed it, when I really haven't. I still have plenty of episodes of that to watch. Also shout out to Bye Bye Earth for very similar reasons. And those are like 2 separate shows that it's like, I want to complete them, I just haven't yet, because I haven't had the time. But looking at the chart that I personally keep for myself to tell me, hey, these are the shows that I'm currently following, I only got 2 from this actual season, and everything else is like holdovers from other seasons. Because like I was still watching Slime, I was still watching Spice and Wolf, I was still watching The Raven Does Not Choose Its Master, which is a show that nobody else cares about. I do. It's great. But then, now that I'm sitting here, you gotta think, okay, well then what is my favorite anime of the season? Because that's a thing, you know, that we do. We give out best anime of the season, and then at the end of the year, which will be in like another 3 months, we're gonna give out, hey, here's my favorite anime for the whole year. And it's usually one of the ones that got best anime of season. So it's like, okay, well, the shows that I did finish, what were they? And are they worth anime of the season? So the 2 shows were... oh, I'm gonna get judged so hard for this. The 2 shows were Ramana Kaneko and Dungeon People. And having said those out loud, I will say, again, I don't necessarily recommend other people to watch these. And it's weird because usually every year, at least every year, there's like one show that I become a diehard fan of to like almost the detriment of my entire credibility. I remember last year I went to a con in Toronto, Anime North, and I was on a panel with Mother's Basement, and throughout the panel, I was absolutely obsessed and in love with the show that was airing at the time. That show was Otaku Elf, and I would yell into that mic and be like, everybody should be watching this, even though I knew nobody probably would. And I still kind of stand by that because Otaku Elf is the type of show that I like. It has a lot of things that I personally enjoy heavily, and if I don't recommend those and shout them out to people, who else will? And so, with that in mind, I would apply the same thing to Dungeon People. Dungeon People just has this feeling to it, how its episodes continue on its narrative, even its animation style, which I know I've seen other people criticize for being too simple and, I don't know, kid-like is probably a good way of describing it, even though the content very much does not match that at times. All Dungeon People is this interesting take on a dungeon crawler where instead of a protagonist trying to conquer a dungeon, she gets recruited by the dungeon's administration, and we see kind of a slice of life look at, well, how do these dungeons actually run? How do they work? They have people administering them, and when you think about it, you're like, I guess that kind of makes sense, because if you have a dungeon and people are going into it and they're raiding the place, like, yeah, you could just say, well, nobody's watching it at all the things just happen to exist within it, and first one to open a chest wins it all. But no, Dungeon People is like, no, this is like almost not necessarily a tourist attraction, but there is business involved. There is, no, we're gonna restock the chests in the upper floors so that new adventurers who enter it could get something. It's all gonna be crap, but you know, they'll get something. It's like, how do the contracts with various monsters from other worlds work? You gotta have really strong monsters on the lower floor to up the difficulty. They need payment, they need living quarters, they need to be taken care of, and you know, at the end of the day, there needs to be a system where if they get slain, they don't actually die. Because who would sign up to do that? Oh yes, I'm gonna go and work for you, and then I'm gonna die. There's just so many things about Dungeon People that I just found fascinating, and I can't necessarily recommend it to everyone. I know that not everyone is going to like it and enjoy it, but if it's the sort of thing that might interest you, it has been like the one I will drop everything and watch when a new episode is out. That and, well, Ramen Akaneko. But I can't recommend Ramen Akaneko anywhere near the same amount because Ramen Akaneko has the problem of where it uses CG and it's not good. So then you question, why are you watching it? Because for me, I am somehow able to get over the fact that this show has massive amounts of jank. But I don't expect everyone to do that. I also know that I feel like I'm weird. I don't understand why I am able to get over the amount of jank that this show has. But for some reason, I did it. I enjoyed it heavily. The characters to me were just that engrossing and fun to watch. Animation be damned that I watched the whole show. I enjoyed the whole show. Do I wish it had better animation? Abso-freaking-lutely. But I didn't stop watching it because of that. And like, that was it. Everything else that I talked about, all of those 11 shows that I kept, I mean, some of them might have got better beyond where I stopped, but I just didn't feel the desire to continue with them. And I don't know if that's necessarily talking ill of the shows themselves. And I don't think that anyone should take it as me talking ill of those shows. It could also just simply be a matter of how my own tastes have changed over time. Because largely, me dropping a show comes down to a new episode is out. Do I want to watch it? I have finite amounts of time in the day, in the week, in the month, in the year. Do I want to spend the 20-25 minutes to watch this next episode and potentially the ones following it? Or do I want to watch something else? Do I want to do something else? There are plenty of fantastic anime from years and decades past that I still haven't gotten around to. Would I rather try and watch those than this? And then if the answer becomes, yeah, I'd rather watch something else, and that continues to be an answer for like 2 or 3 weeks, then it's like, I guess I've dropped this show. That might not be the best way of deciding whether or not to drop a show, but That's how I've been doing it. And I don't really want to say that this is becoming a new trend for me, because if I look back at spring, back in spring, there were 9 shows I completed. And I don't feel like the amount of time that I have has changed much. It's just it could just be a matter of different seasons perform differently. Different shows that are on offer will speak to me in different ways. The spring season had 9 shows that I felt that I wanted to complete, and I did so. This season, just 2. Next season, maybe we'll be back up to 9. Maybe that'll only be 1. We don't know, and I won't know until, we get to it. Paying attention to, the watching habits of other people, though, I have noticed, and I've gotten this feeling that the amount of anime that I watch is still abnormal. Maybe I'm incorrect, and perhaps my own audience is the worst people to ask about this, because if you're following me, chances are you're watching a decent amount of anime, but I don't know if that's the norm. I've always gotten the feeling that in any given year, an average anime fan, someone who actually enjoys watching anime and not just being immersed in the culture of it, only watches maybe 5 or 6 shows. It's like they watch what has been recommended of the best show of every season, and maybe another 1 or 2 besides. That seems to be the norm. And so, with that lens, I feel like me even completing 2 this season, on top of continuing with the other shows from previous seasons and so forth, is a lot still. And completing 9 shows in the spring is absolutely ridiculous. I am an outlier on the scale of people who watch anime. And instead, I have become the person who will say, hey, this is what the best show is this season. And I'll point to Dungeon People, and people will be like, are you stupid? In a season where Alia exists and where losing heroin exists, I am going to be told I am an insane crazy person who has no taste. I know this. I don't know if the knowledge that those shows are more popular and will have more people following them changes my credibility at all. It's I'm acknowledging that those are popular. I just can also just say that they're not my personal favorite, which is all I care about. This is my video. You don't like it? Go elsewhere. I'm sure you already have. And that's really what I would like everyone to do. I mean, I know in the past I have been absolutely guilty of saying, hey, this is the best anime of a season or even a year, and not even being fully behind it, only because I enjoy that show, but the ones that I would like more, I don't think that people will appreciate as much as I do. I mean, there are exceptions. I've gone to bat for shows that I know nobody else would say is the best show of all time for that year. I don't believe I know many people that said Yudu Camp was the best show in the year that it came out. I mean, last year when I said Frieren was my favorite, I feel like that's the closest I've been to agreeing with the anime populace at large in a long time, which is great because, Frieren's amazing and you should be watching it if you haven't already. So when it comes to what is the purpose of the videos that I make, what is the purpose of this video even? And the answer to that is get more viewers to watch Dungeon People. You might like it. I do. You might like Otaku Elf from last year as well, or you might not. In a couple of days from now, I'm going to be sitting down and I'm going to be planning my fall seasonal. And the fall is always interesting because the fall, I can almost work on 2 videos in tandem. I can work on, here's the overview for the fall season, and also I can start to piece together what the best end of year video is going to be, because now I have the final season in front of me. And I don't believe that Dungeon People will be the best anime of the year for me. I mean, it's pretty high up there, and it's gonna get an honorable mention at the very least, just because of how much I've been enjoying it. But sometimes that's what happens with a season, You only get so many shows, so many good shows, and sometimes things are held back or pushed forward to be in the quote-unquote better seasons. And I feel like Summer's usually the down season, I feel like. I don't have the actual statistics in front of me, that's just a gut feeling. But even so, I will stand behind Dungeon People this year as one of my favorites. Will it get anywhere, especially because it's going to be up against Delicious in Dungeon? Probably not. If you're going to say, I can't even say it's the best dungeon crawler for the year. It's not. Delicious in Dungeon is far and away better than Dungeon People. But I almost feel like it's a wonderful companion piece to it, because Delicious in Dungeon is we're gonna conquer this dungeon that technically also has an administrator when you think about it. but it's done in a very different way. It's got a very different feeling to it. And, you know, just because I've historically loved slice of life, they're like my favorite genre of all time. Pretty much. I love them so much. I will talk about so many good shows within this genre. This just nice, comfy, relaxing shows that I watch just to relax and feel better about myself. That's the kind of thing that I like. So the fact that this is it, yes, I'm going to stand behind it. Dungeon People is my favorite anime of the summer season, and if you don't agree, cool. You're wrong, though. So thank you for sitting through my rant about Dungeon People. You know what I want you to do more than sitting through my rant of Dungeon People? I want you to go watch Dungeon People. I'll put a link in the description. You should click on it. Also, while you're there, you can click on the link to my Patreon, the place where people are able to support me in doing the videos that I do and in doing these little these little shout outs to shows that I think nobody else is going to talk about. No one else is going to talk about Dungeon People, let's be honest. I would be even more surprised if someone in any video in the next month talking about like good shows from this season mentioned Ramanaka Neko. I did because I loved it. Does that make me strange? Absolutely! But hopefully, that's what you want. Hopefully that's what my patrons want. Patrons like Hector Montemayor, Sid Yamako, Ryfin Bonaparte, Eden, Omar Showman, and Ross Emerson. I can't do this without your guys' support, so however much you're able to help, I am eternally grateful. Next time, the fall season, the final season of 2024. Should be good. So until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and others, watch Dungeon People and stay frosty.